Go ahead, do your joke.
It's not funny anymore.
It never was. Hello and welcome to This Is Austin. Are you ready to be doing some hardcore gaming on your brand new RTX-enabled Chromebook?
Okay, this is a wacky story, but hear us out here. Chrome OS has an enormous amount of, I would say, sway in the market, right?
Yep.
A big reason why Android tablets aren't complete garbage is because most Android apps are also designed for Chromebooks, which means that they are designed to work well on a larger display that can be resized, right? Before Chrome OS and before Android apps worked on Chromebooks, that was not the case. Largely. Some exceptions, right? But there are a ton of kids and a ton of people in general who use Chromebooks. And
I mean, a lot of schools hand them out.
Absolutely.
Like,
it might not be like the highest percentage, but it is a very sort of important demographic, I would argue.
All right, the story started floating around.
There's a bunch of different parts of this.
Yeah, so one of them is that, all right, Steam is going to start coming to Linux-based Chrome OS.
Which makes 100% sense. So Valve has a clear interest in bringing out as many Linux games as possible to not only work on the Steam Deck, but of course they want to sell games on every platform that you will potentially buy them on.
And make a
including
cool
Chrome OS.
30% on those sales.
Exactly.
So,
On top of that, there are enough people who buy Chromebooks. And really, if you think about the demographics of Chromebooks, there's a lot of gamers, I would argue, who are, in school, whatever the case is, who also use Chromebooks, right? So I think there's a natural fit to, if your school Chromebook or your work Chromebook could also play some games on the side, well, I mean, that seems pretty good to me, right?
yeah, except most Chromebooks, especially ones handed out by schools, have the specs of half a potato. I wouldn't even say a full potato.
A wet noodle?
Yeah, it's... So the other side of this story is that nVidia showcased some demos where they had the RTX 3060 on Chrome OS.
Yeah, so it was an ARM processor. It was a MediaTek
Yes.
Compagno 1200. I don't know why I said it with the accent, but I'm just going to roll with it. But essentially an ARM-powered device that had an RTX 3060 attached. Now, it was very much, to be clear, a proof of concept. I don't believe we're actually going to see that configuration be sold, but you can imagine a dedicated RTX graphics card being sold in a medium to high-end Chromebook that still is ARM-powered, that still has all the battery life, blah, 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 that, you don't need to use the GPU all the time. But unlike another device that maybe doesn't have great battery life or is super expensive or whatever, you have that power you can fire up when you need it.
I don't think... Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's ever been a Chromebook with a dedicated GPU. I think everything has been integrated.
No. Like the best sort of highest end Chromebooks typically are just like a Core i5, maybe a Core i7 in a few cases, but nothing that has dedicated graphics. As far as I know, I could be wrong with some weirdo thing, but
I have... What do you think the most expensive Chromebook is?
Was it the Chromebook Pixel? That was fairly expensive. Or no, the Pixelbook. The Pixelbook is even more expensive.
Not even close.
Is it some stupid, like, Enterprise Lenovo 9000?
I spec'd out an HP Elite C1030.
Oh, those are actually really nice.
Chromebook, notebook, PC, customizable.
Great name.
So the base for this guy is a 10th gen i3.
Okay.
8 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
120 gigs NVMe storage.
Sure.
$1,600.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
So much worse. So fully spec'd
Yep.
is a 10th gen i7 with 16 gigs of RAM.
A lot of RAM.
It's still HD, but I think it's like a
Anti-glare or anti
whatever.
looking.
But not it's not like you're getting 4K. It's
Sure.
not like you're getting high refresh rate, whatever. $3,000. And it's apparently in so much demand with chip shortage.
No,
that
it is
won't
not.
Even ship.
It is absolutely not.
It will not
You're a
even
liar.
ship until September of 2022.
Because no one's ever ordered that before, Matt. They got to do all the prototyping and figure out that actually even exists as a configuration.
So that's, when we talk about Chromebooks, often we talk about the price.
Yes.
Because when you're talking about a Chromebook that costs like $200, $300, no brainer. That device can do most things for most people. You and I probably could both live on a Chromebook.
I can do 95% of my daily tasks on a Chromebook without any issue whatsoever.
We don't use Chromebooks, but they are really useful for that scenario. But when you start talking about like the premium Chromebooks, like I know Samsung has one that's like $600. It starts to be like, well, why am I getting this versus an actual either,
real
obviously
laptop.
a pre-built PC is you could get a pretty decent PC for $600.
Of course.
laptops can be really shitty for in that $400 or $500 price range.
Yep.
Definitely at $200, it's really bad.
Yeah.
But you still get the full Windows experience. Imagine you're shoving a 3060 into a Chromebook. I don't think you're getting out of there for less than $1,000 on even like the most modest Chromebook.
Absolutely. We're not talking about ultra budget Chromebooks.
No.
We're talking about a Chromebook which is accelerated not only in hardware, but also just it has a more premium experience. This actually reminds me of the very first Chromebook. Matt, do you know what the very first Chromebook was?
I do, because our wonderful researcher Kinsey has it here. June 15th, 2011. She didn't give me the actual name of it. But you were there.
The CR48 is the first computer built specifically.
This is a video I made in February 2011.
Why do you sound older? You sound
Chrome OS has come a very long way, and I think a lot of people disregard it as, oh, it's just a browser. But like between Android apps, between the ability to run full Linux, especially if you throw things like games and Steam on it and more powerful hardware, it does, I think, become a more full-featured device where you can knock out even more things that you just straight up can't do. Like, oh, no, I actually can game, especially if there are any kind of compatibility layers, like what Steam has been working on or Valve has been working on for the Steam Deck, to allow you to run some Windows games as well. But the thing is, you also need the other part of this equation, which is not just RTX graphics, but the actual chips to run them. Having an ARM-powered CPU, something that's supposed to be super efficient, designed to be, run on tablets, everything, and hook up a full graphics card is not something you can just do right off the shelf, which is why we really haven't seen it. But the fact is, they believe that there's enough of a market where they're putting in the time and the effort to develop this. And in fact, the MediaTek processors, they're actually even talking about stuff like, oh, you know what? It is going to be, 3 displays at 120 hertz and, 8 cores and all this kind of stuff. Like, the levels of performance that you're going to be able to see in Chromebooks, as well as sort of just Android tablets and whatnot, is going to be coming up quite a bit over the next few years. So why wouldn't NVIDIA want to jump on the bandwagon and make graphics cards available and at least build the software stack behind that? It seems very clear to me that gaming Chromebooks are coming, right? I mean, they might not be as powerful as an RTX 3090 in your laptop or whatever, but that's fine. Like, they will have enough performance, and theoretically, with Steam and more games being optimized for Linux, they'll be up and running in a way that will be maybe not quite as good as on Windows, but good enough for a lot of people, probably.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because we know that this is not going to be a cheap device. $1,000 would be the rock bottom minimum price for that, but I think it's closer to like $1,500.
Well, it depends. If they have lower end GPUs, they could probably land in the $700-ish range. Like, it doesn't have to be super expensive to have some level of gaming performance. If you are a school and you're going to be giving out Chromebooks to a bunch of high school or college kids or what have you, it might make sense to give them something with a little bit more performance.
Like a public school that gives out Chromebooks, they're giving away the $200 Chromebooks. Like, again, I'm not trying to put down Chromebooks here, but just arguably better
who would spend the money
overall
on
experience to have just a full-fledged like Windows machine that doesn't have the limitations that Chrome OS has.
Yeah.
And to spend that much money on it, I think it just makes more sense just to get a Windows laptop or a Mac or something.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think for most people, this is probably not going to make a ton of sense, but for some people it will. And ultimately, it's one of those things where on NVIDIA's side, they're just going to put this together because it's probably not a massive investment, and who knows where it might lead. The next generation NVIDIA book that doesn't use Intel, whatever the case is. And on the Valve side, it completely makes sense to make Steam available because there is a huge market of Chromebooks that exist even today that don't have RTX graphics that could still play a lot of sort of simpler
There's a lot of games that can play on integrated graphics.
Absolutely.
Especially with the higher, like, there's some 10th gen, there's even 11th gen Chromebooks now,
which have decent graphics. Same thing on the AMD side, right? So like, I think Chrome OS continues to grow and thrive as a platform. I think a lot of people sleep on it as like, oh, it's just sort of a watered down device, or, oh, I've got to use this for work or school or whatnot. But it continues to get better and better. And between the Android app support and the Linux support and the fact that just Chrome OS just continues to grow and sort of gain new features, I think this is just another feather in its hat. And while no, it might not make sense for you and I to go out and buy a gaming Chromebook for $1,000 tomorrow, as it gets better and better, more and more people will start to find that maybe it actually is a perfectly acceptable compromise and that you don't have to give up huge parts of your workflow or your games or what have you to make Chrome OS a part of your life. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, ring-a-ling that ding-a-ling bell, and never, ever forget that Austin did a CR48 review before some of you were born.
Ouch.